You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast with creator and host, Nomad. With 20 plus years of experience in the music industry, Nomad has done just about everything to earn a living as a career musician. From being music director to celebrity artists, playing iconic arenas and stadiums, composing for film and TV, and even playing your average local club gigs, he's done it all. Nomad's mission is to empower musicians across the globe with strategies for a sustainable career while blasting stereotypes, and to bring you tried and true wisdom from his colleagues in this crazy business we call music.
On this episode of the Career Musician Podcast, we have production and lighting designer, production manager, and show producer, Mr. Chris Lisle. Chris and I met years ago while working together with Babyface, and his list of credits include Robert Plant, Jason Aldean, Miranda Lambert, OneRepublic, Dave Koz, Danny Gokey, Sugarland, Billy Currington, Peter Frampton, Nick Carter, Chris Young, Jennifer Nettles, Keith Urban, Leanne Rimes, Leanne Womack, and many, many more. In addition, Chris is a co-founder along with Eric Parker of their nonprofit organization Touring Career Workshop, which hosts an annual workshop conference which provides aspiring crew members with various resources to help them pursue their careers. With almost 30 years of experience under his belt, Chris definitely shares some insightful career info in this episode of the Career Musician Podcast. Chris Lisle, welcome to the Career Musician Podcast.
Dude, thanks for having me. This is like totally exciting. I'm honored a musician wants me on their podcast. Like, this is cool.
Well, look, I always say that, the crew is part of the band because, look, we can't do it without you guys.
That's true.
Have you ever seen a bunch of musicians go on stage and bump into each other and running around in circles?
Not pretty. No, this is good, man. We had many years touring together, and this is so awesome that you've got this show, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Oh, man, thank you so much. So, for the listeners who aren't familiar, Chris and I know each other from working with Babyface.
As you know very well, man, you don't get many gigs off paper resumes. It's all who you know and connections. And that's one of those opportunities that I was very thankful to be connected to Richie. And when he knew that Babyface was looking for a lighting director, I got that call, and that was fun.
Man, absolutely. That is so true what you just said. You don't get many gigs from a paper resume. It's funny because all of the studying that we do, and, I'm a big proponent for education and all that. It almost like you have to learn all that, ingest it, digest it, and then forget about it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
It just doesn't go that way in real life.
No, it doesn't. I mean, look, and I taught college here in town briefly. I taught a class on touring, and I always told people, finish. You've spent the money, you've spent the time, finish, get your degree. Getting your degree is important, but be ready to relearn when you get in the real world because we're such a hands-on industry. As a young person, you could have taken guitar lessons from 10 different people, but until you picked it up yourself and crafted your style, that's how you discovered what made you who you are. And the same thing with crew. The way a sound engineer mixes is not about somebody teaching them, but about them digging into a console or the way a PA sounds. Same thing with the lighting director. What works color-wise and moods for songs, you got to figure it out on your own path.
That's right. And you know what? That's a good segue. Do you, when you're designing a show, and which I want to go into in detail because your designs are amazing, when you're doing that, what's your process like? Do you sit with the artist's music for a day, a week, a month, and do you write things out? I mean, boy, tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of lead time I spend on designing a tour depends really on the size of the tour. For an arena, we like to be 6 to 9 months out, if not even a year in some cases. That's a little more rare. But if you get into the club level tour, you're planning just months out. So I like that. I like to have as much lead time as I can, but I'm initially meeting with anybody from the artist themselves to their manager, to their tour manager, production manager, or a combination of those people. And generally in those meetings, we're talking a lot of the very basic common sense thing you would think about. We're talking about budgets, what we want to spend on this tour, how many trucks it needs to fit into. But then we also start to dive into what is the artist's vision? What kind of feel do they want? And in my career, man, I've been 30 years in now, and I think it's about 50-50 in terms of how many artists want to be involved in that aspect of their show versus here, I trust you, you go make it happen. But I always try to ask questions. I ask the artist or manager, like, who are you listening to right now? Or what show have you been watching a DVD of or YouTube in their videos? Like, and why did you like that show? Trying to get in their head of to what they're into right now visually, in terms of colors and video elements and scenic and props. And then I just kind of take those keywords, I gather these keywords. I've sat with artists and they've said a keyword like, I want it to feel industrial, or I want it to feel shiny. I want it to feel slick. And then I go and I start playing some of their records and just try to see what comes to mind. Sometimes a little whiskey helps.
Hey, amen, dude. I love that you said that. I'm a huge whiskey, bourbon, Scotch guy. So
Absolutely. So so we just try to come up with some creative ideas. I put those all on paper. I've got a special program where I design everything, and then start getting those drawings in front of the artist and management team. And it's usually a couple back and forths of I like this, I don't like this, change this, and then we land on the product and start, going to bid and budgeting and all that fun stuff.
That's an amazing process. It's much like a record producer. Mm-hmm. You're going in, you're trying to pull the best out of the musicians in the band, the best performance, and then you're pulling the best performance out of the vocalist. But you're also bouncing all of those elements, with management. You have to make sure management and the artist like the direction, right?
Right.
But you have to keep in mind budget, that you don't go over budget, all these things that you're juggling.
Yeah. And the other trick, man, and I don't know if musicians deal with this a lot, but it's so hard to try not to copy something that's been done. When I design a show, it's like you want to do something creative, but there's so much out there and you want to make sure you're not copying the look, the way the stage is designed. And, you want to give the whole thing is you want to give that audience a unique evening, man. Some people, I mean, this is going to sound sappy, but I mean what I'm about to say is I take it to heart that when people come to a show, they may have saved for months and sacrificed eating out and some things just to be there that night. And that night is important to people. And so I want people leaving that venue having the best experience they can from my side of things. I can't help you with the artist performance or if the band was a little off, but I can make make sure the show looks good. And I take that seriously.
That's right. Well, as we all do, and as we all should. Hopefully we all do. We all should. And sometimes when you're on, especially if you're out for an extended period of time, sometimes it's easy to take that for granted.
Absolutely.
Like I always say, the rigors of the road can wear you down, right?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, so that's a good point that you bring up.
Yeah, and you touched on a subject that's dear to my heart is, the personal side of our industry, and you said it spot on, the rigors of the road, man. This industry is brutal. And look, I'm an open book. I'll tell you straight up, I'm on my third marriage. Now, this marriage I feel really good about. I love her. She's awesome. But man, look, I'm 48 years old and I've got 2 ex-wives. I'm not proud of that, but it's hard, man.
It is. Hard. Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And second of all, you look great, and we are the same age. I didn't realize we were both born in 72 then.
It's a great year. Absolutely.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
All right. So, okay, one of the cool things I remember about working with you is that you were also, in this particular case, you were also the production manager. So you were PM/LD.
Absolutely.
Production manager, lighting director.
Correct.
Did you hold, at that time, were you doing stage management too? I mean, or tour management? You were holding a lot of positions.
I was the team maker. I can remember that. That was fun. But
Right.
I was a production manager in LD. And, on a size, Babyface was a great tour. And as you know very well, he's such a great man and a great community and people around him. But, that kind of tour doesn't have the budget for an exorbitant crew. We can't carry 40 people on the road.
Right.
So a lot of times in those cases, we're wearing multiple hats. Right. And as I came up in the industry, I figured out pretty quick that if I wanted to stay busy and work, learn a couple different trades or learn how to make the best use of yourself. As a lighting director, I'm most useful on show day, making sure the show looks good. But a production manager, if I can take on that role, I'm going to get paid a little more, and I'm going to be working on the advanced side of the show. I'm going to be talking to promoters in advance and I'm going to stay busy more and more and more. So now I've got this whole big career thing.
Bro, it's what I always preach. Be as versatile as possible and take initiative, for crying out loud, right?
Absolutely.
Don't just sit there and be like, well, it's not my job. That's so-and-so. No, man. If you see a hole that needs to be filled, an opportunity that needs to be met, take initiative, right?
Absolutely. We are all our own businesses. You're your own business. I'm my own business. And therefore, you're your own marketing department, your own HR department. You're your own everything. So that means you're in charge of getting your next gig. You don't rely on somebody else. And so you got to hustle, man. And part of that hustle for crew people is, where can I be of value and how can I keep income rolling in even when the artist isn't on the road, And so, man, it's just discovering that little trick can be life-changing in this business.
Now, once you became aware of that, how did you prepare to learn how to be a production manager? And let's talk about some of the variables that are involved in that, because, that's not an easy job.
Right. Yeah, and for the viewers that may not be fully aware, so the production manager on a tour is going to be responsible for advancing and overseeing anything technical involved with the show, making sure that sound, lights, video, trucking, stage, crew, equipment, all that is planned for, accounted for, and you're going to have the smoothest show day you can. And with that role, you're doing a lot of advanced work. So it's not just walking into a venue on show day, looking up and going, okay, we're going to do a show. No, it's talking to the venues and promoters weeks, if not months in advance. Especially with Babyfaces, we did so much international work. I was spending months talking to people. But it's a very busy role. And it's it is stressful at times. I mean, you've got a lot on you, but again, if you want to hustle and get ahead, man, it's just a hat I was happy to wear, Did
you have any production manager friends that you kind of shadowed, or did you just pick their brains a lot?
That's a great question. I came up in an interesting era in the business in my world. Right now, everything we do is digital, especially in production. Everything's digital. But I came up in a very analog environment. And so in the production manager world, that means that there was a lot of fax machines and phone calls, whereas now it's all emails and forms and text messages. You don't communicate as much. So early on, man, it was a lot of jumping into the fire and just learning how to do it, but also having some great mentors, watching people. And as a lighting director, knowing that I wanted to production manage some too, watching the PM on the tours I was on and going, I like the way they do that. I like their communication skills. They're organized. They're a leader. You've got to be a leader in that role. And absorbing that, but also making my mistakes, learning why you do and don't do certain things certain ways, and having errors, and then, of course, building off your errors and doing it better next time.
Dude, you said so much good stuff there that we have to unpack. Okay, first of all, let me try to work backwards.
Okay.
You just mentioned being a leader. That, let's talk about that, because, and I'm so glad, and then you also said that we all have our own small businesses. So true. We're doing our own marketing. We're doing our own soliciting of work. We're doing our own research and development, all these things. But being a leader, when you have your own small business, you don't go to small business music school or small business crew school and be like, oh yeah, now I know everything. Like we said, right. You can help. You can learn a lot of stuff when you go to those kind of schools. And it's
absolutely
great, but you don't have the real field experience yet.
Correct.
How did you develop into a competent and successful leader? Because that's something that I had to develop into that too. It takes time.
Yeah, it's about, again, proving to your peers, especially as a production manager, the crew around you that is technically under you, that you are competent, that you will have their back, and that you can pull off this show. And again, it's just trials and tribulations. It's learning what works and what doesn't work, and just having that confidence to walk in, to own a room, to own a phone call. So, as I'm talking to a promoter, not letting people run you over. When I'm advancing for Babyface, he's an icon in this industry. He deserves what we are contracted for, not letting promoters run over you, and just being confident in who you are.
I love that. I love taking control, man. And you don't want I always say there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want to walk in the room and be like, all right, motherfuckers, I'm here. This is how it's going to go.
That doesn't work, man.
That doesn't work.
No. No, it's fun to watch, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, because it's going to blow up, right? Yeah.
It does, man. You know, it's not that I want to be buddy on my crew, and there's definitely people I've toured with that are some of my best friends in the world. As you know, that's what happens on tour. But, you know, you can't walk into a room as a dick. I mean, again, I'm representing you. We're all representing the artist. Their name is on that marquee, not Chris Lisle's. Right. And if I'm pissing off promoters and the people that hire that artist to do shows, it's hurting me. It's not only hurting the artist, which sucks because they're great, but it's hurting my peers. It's hurting the people that need this gig. So going in and being confident and firm, but likable.
Yes, that likability factor. All right, wow, that is so good. Such good stuff. All right, and then going even further back into that first bout of that conversation, you became a lighting director. Was there a point in your life that you said, oh my God, look at those freaking lights, I got to do that for a living? You know, like how did that happen?
Dude, I mean, that's one of those crazy stories that I'm going to try to condense. But, you know, I grew up here in Nashville, which is not many of us that are in this industry that grew up here in town.
You're an anomaly. Yeah.
It is. It really is. And so, man, I tried college. I literally went for a semester. I was going to go into advertising, and, you know, it wasn't for me. I just knew I was wasting my money, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. How can you be, you know, again, some people have a plan, but I didn't. I went to college and I partied. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was wasting my time and my money. So I ended up getting a job delivering like pizzas and met some musicians who I just started hanging out with musicians and going to the clubs here in town. Yeah. And, you know, eventually one of these musicians was like, hey, I'm going to go do these shows in California. Do you want to come run lights? I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about lights, but I love music. I love travel, and I love creativity. I said, I'll go learn. And I literally went and volunteered. I worked for free at a little lighting shop here in town and just got my hands dirty. And just what does this do? Why does it work this way? And why do we do this? And spent weeks asking the right questions and went on the road with this artist. And man, and this was 1991. And I'll never forget, this was a life-changing spiritual moment for me. But we drove out west in a little truck with our gear and a car. And it was my turn to drive the car. And we were coming back from this run of shows. And it was my turn to drive. It was 5:30 in the morning, driving across Wyoming. And the sun is rising in front of me. And I get emotional talking about this.
Beautiful.
I just remember having this iconic, just revelation like this right here, as tired as I was. But it was what I wanted to do the rest of my life.
That's right.
And I went home and told my parents, and they were like, oh, boy.
How old were you then, roughly?
I would have been, I would have been 19.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you were a baby.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even drink in the bars with the guys. So.
Right.
But man, I knew I wanted to do it because, again, travel, music, and creativity. I wasn't a musician per se, but I loved music, and I loved travel, and I loved art and creativity. I was like, this career blends these things I love. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah, well, you're a visual artist, period. I mean, you are a visual artist.
Without sounding arrogant, yes, we have to paint a picture around a performance.
That's right.
I want the audience not only to hear the words, but to feel something. Yes. And colors bring that out, you know, the blues and purples and reds. And there's things that happen to us visually. And when we see something visually, it stirs up emotion when we hear those words accented with those moments.
So true. You know, there's a trend right now going on in everybody's home studios, especially. If you just scroll through some social media feeds, you'll see everybody's home studios has splashes of blue and purple and pink, including mine. And it's so funny. When I first did it, I was like, wow. I shut off all my bright work lights and I just turned on the mood lights. Bro, I became so creative, like instant. It's crazy, you know? So, right? I mean, that's testament to the fact that you're 100% accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, too, it's a fine line because with the exception of EDM music where the lights and the visuals are a big part of that performance, right, any other time we really don't want to distract from the artist and their show, but enhance and complement. And so try not to be I'm out front making these lights blind the audience unless it's called for. And that's just something you learn as you go, you know.
Right. Okay. So, you know what's something else I could relate to? I love how you said the picture you just set, the scene. You're driving through Wyoming at 5:30 a.m. The sun is coming up over the ridge, and you just get so emotional thinking about it. I feel the same way. I don't like the rigors of traveling. In fact, I hate flying, even when there's not a pandemic. I just don't like flying.
Sure.
I like driving, but I'm not really good at long distances. But I do like this. I like the fact that we can wake up in one city and 24 hours later be in another, and 24 hours later be in another. And we're getting to experience life as it is in real time in all of these different places around the globe.
Yes.
That in itself, right, is kind of a like, wow, that's a hard thing to really wrap your mind around, right?
There's so many, to your point, there's so many little nuances of our industries that people don't realize that you got to keep in mind. Let's take a tour like a Taylor Swift that might roll into a town with 24 to 30 semi-trucks. They're building an entire performance space in the matter of hours. 30 trucks. You're talking about stuff that is logistically challenging, but it just happens. It's like this very well-oiled machine. But to your point about travel, you know, it's all about those days off and that downtime too, you know. And that this is something, not to get straight too off course and talking about spouses and relationships, but you know, a lot of times, especially as the crew, we're in a venue first thing in the morning, 7 a.m., and we're the last ones out of the venue, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And in some cases, if it's a busy arena-sized show, we never leave the venue. So even though I may be in Minneapolis, Detroit, Chicago, boom, 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 I may only see the inside of arenas. But if we get to those towns and get to have a day off and we go have a nice dinner and have some drinks, play some golf, whatever your thing is, that's those cool memories of, oh, I remember in Minneapolis, there's that killer steakhouse over on 6th, whatever it is.
Right.
And you gather those memories. But to the relationship point I was going to make, because crew people, we are in the venue so much, a lot of times the spouses back at home have this misconception that this is one big party for us.
Yeah, that's right.
And it can be this thing like, oh, you guys are, you know, getting drunk at 4 p.m. and you got girls all over the bus or whatever it is.
Right.
And it's just not the case. You got a lot of really tired people just trying to pull off a show.
Unless you were somebody like a super, super rock star in their heyday, that is just not happening.
No. No.
You know, I mean, you know, sure, there is debauchery that has taken place within the music industry. We all know that. But for those of us who, like I say, career musicians who actually are working and making a career of this, no, there's no time for that. It's silly. I hate to, you know, belittle it, but it's just
silly.
Not. Yeah.
And you know what? In my 20s, 20-year-old Chris would have had a different conversation with me.
Right. Yeah.
Then 2 wives later, and in my 40s, I'm like, no. I want to sustain, brother. I want to go out in my 60s and have left a positive mark on this industry. And you're not going to do that by being drunk all day and shitty at your job.
Indeed, my friend. Okay, you just said something that I wanted to shift again. Logistics. First of all, I love that word. I'm a word guy. I love all these little, you know, unique words. Of course, I think we all have our favorite words, right?
Sure.
Logistics happens to be one of mine. I probably misuse it more than I use it properly, but
Gotcha.
Anyway, I love the idea of the logistics. Like you said, a day in the life of Chris Lisle, the lighting director, production manager. I mean, like you said, you guys roll into his town. What does that day in the life look like? What's that schedule? So it's 7 a.m. Is that the you know, the arrival time, or is that the what do you call unloading the trucks onto the dock? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit about that. So, well, let's use the example for this. Let's use the example of an arena tour, maybe with 6 to 8 semis, which is pre-pandemic was a fair, good-sized tour.
Right.
You know, arriving at the venue is going to be determined by how long our drive was the night before, our routing. You know, the booking agents are booking the tour, and if we're going from Chicago to Louisville, that's a 5-hour drive.
Right.
So we're getting to venues anywhere from, you know, 5 a.m. to literally 8 a.m., right when we typically would start loading in.
Okay, well, hold on. I got to pause you because I bet you know all the travel times of all these different cities throughout the United States.
Far more than I should, brother.
My heart, you're like, yeah, Chicago to Louisville, that's 5 hours. Atlanta to here, that's this is okay.
And that's why when I get routing from a booking agent, I'm like, oh, we're not going to make that.
That's not good, yeah.
You should have talked to me. But anyways, no, so we roll into the venue, and some of the first people off the bus are our tour riggers. You know, a tour rigger, for those that may not know, are the ones that are in charge of making sure anything that's flown or hung from the venue is safe and done correctly. And to do their job, they come in first to do what we call marking out the points. So they are taking chalk and writing on the floor of the venue where each motor goes that lifts up PA, lighting, video systems.
Wow.
And that's done first thing before anything else is out, because we can't do anything until we have motors in the air and they can attach lighting and video and stuff to that. So
is there any kind of a standard that makes sure that, you know, that gets mandated for safety?
Dummy checks. I mean, I would love to tell you we have an industry protocol, but there's a lot of great training programs. And I would say of the tour riggers I know, they're very, very smart, and they've been doing this a long time and take their job seriously because, again, people die when they don't do their jobs right.
I actually know somebody who has lost their lives from that. Yeah.
And it sucks. And, accidents happen, but no, we try to always get tour riggers that double and triple check and have people come behind them and double and triple check.
Okay.
Like, is that chain hooked correctly to the venue girders and things like that? So, but man, they're such an important part of the tour because tour safety is always been a precedent. And as we go through, things falling and mass shootings and pandemics, right. It goes to a different level. I'm proud of our industry. I know we're segueing, but I'm very proud of our industry and what we're doing safety-wise right now.
No, absolutely, and I definitely want to focus on that. I want to kind of lead up to that. But by the way, do you carry your own riggers on the tour, or do you use guys in the local town, people in the local town?
So it's going to be a mixture. When we talk about riggers and crew, we would carry with the tour a lead rigger, somebody that knows our system, knows exactly what we need, what's happening during the show, if things are moving and why motors need to go certain places. They are in charge of then directing local riggers, which on an 8-truck tour, we'd probably get 16 of those, 12 to 16 of those.
Wow, that's a lot of people, man.
A lot of people. But again, efficiency, to get 100 motors deployed in 2 to 3 hours, you have to.
Yes.
You have to. And so the riggers are starting to do that. 7:30, they're marking out the floor. We typically on an arena, we're starting to dump trucks at 8. So the crew has wandered in, getting their coffee, their breakfast, all that. And then we basically start loading in production by department that takes the longest. And that's typically going to be lighting. Lighting typically has the most components. So lighting trucks will dump first. And on an arena tour, you may have 4, 6, 8 lighting crew people that tour with the tour. And then you're going to get, again, locals. Same thing with audio and video. You're going to get locals that are jumping in, helping. Kind of neck down people, as we say, like, here, plug this in, do this.
Right, hands, as we call them, right?
Stage hands, correct.
Hands. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So we're loading in lighting, and then depending on complexity, it's like video, audio, scenic, all kind of layers loaded in. And generally, you've got a stage manager on tour who's kind of gauging how things are going. Every venue is different in terms of how many trucks it can hold at the docks. And so they're kind of going, okay, we're moving fast. I'm going to go ahead and get the next truck dump. Or they're going to be like, oh, lighting, something happened. A motor broke, and that just cost us 30 minutes. So we're going to hold off on audio. So there's a stage manager during this load-in process really policing things. While the production manager's in the office doing bigger picture stuff, the stage manager's on the floor policing this load-in.
Okay.
Yeah. And so generally, we try to have most production up and done around 1 o'clock. By 1 o'clock, we will want to have everything flown to the point where it's above head height because, obviously we're going to have to take a lunch break for the crew. But what we want to do is be able to allow the backline techs to come in after lunch to start getting their world set, immediately after lunch.
That's why midday, because as the music director, I would usually go in early, and that's why midday you see the what do you call them? The rafters.
The venue, the rafters, or the trusses.
The trusses. Yep. You see the trusses half flown. Yep. Like you said, they're probably about 10, 12 feet in the air.
Yep.
And then you see the backline guys loading stuff on. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. See, we always keep the trusses low until we've seen everything on them work, and then we take them up. Like, there's no sense in going 40 feet in the air and then finding out a light's broken. Get it above head height so people can do their job. If a light's broken, you bring it down just enough to get that light replaced. So that's what you've seen.
Wow.
It's all about working smart and efficient. So when that truss is ready, up to the air and you're done. And so... Yeah. So after lunch, you're really focusing on making sure everything's getting tidied because you're going to start sound checks anywhere from 2 to 4 p.m. It just depends on how many acts are on the tour. If your artist actually sound checks, what the protocol is. And it's different for every tour. Some artists never show up a sound check. Some they take an hour every day and go through everything.
That's right. My buddy who works with Chicago says they never sound check.
Yeah, never. Exactly. Yeah. And it's just, and look, they've been doing this so long, they've got it. I mean, it's Chicago. Right?
If you don't have it by now, go home. Yeah. Say, right?
Yeah. But so we're, after lunch, we're making sure that sound checks can happen on time, because as a production manager, as I'm laying out the schedule for the day, I'm always working backwards, and I'm looking at our show contract, and I'm going, okay, doors are at 6 o'clock for a 7 o'clock downbeat with our support act. So I know that everything has to be done 100% at 6. At 6 o'clock, house music better be on. Mm-hmm. So I start working backwards from there and go, okay, if we have 3 acts on the show, the last act will sound check from 5 to 6, the middle act from 4 to 5, and then that gives the headliner 2 to 4. And I'm starting to layer all this in and to hit these deadlines. And of course, that works us all the way back to what we've already talked about at load in. But again, you never want to have to hold doors. That's embarrassing. Things happen. We've showed up late to venues because it was a long drive, or there was a wreck, or mechanically things have happened. But you never want to be your fault as a production manager or as a production. You want to make sure doors are open on time, that the 2 support bands or however many can play their full sets, and that you can get out of there on time and make the next show. Because again, the show runs from 7 to 11, 11:30. You're taking all that down. Most arena loadouts are 2.5 to 3.5 hours.
Wow.
You get back in the trucks. So if you do the math, you're in bed at 2:30 or 3 in the morning.
Okay. And I was just going to say that. Holy shit. I mean, I've always had, such a respect for you guys. It is crazy. And, personally, it's so funny because doing this podcast, I get to talk to a lot of my friends that I've had over the years. If I've ever said or done anything to piss you off, please forgive me.
You were great to work with.
Let me just take this opportunity now.
Oh, man. It was
man. Speaking of the lack of sleep, and that definitely falls under the rigors of the road. Do you have a personal mantra when shit hits the fan?
I hate saying it is what it is, but that's one that always comes to mind. Like, sometimes shit just happens, man. It just does. The same way a string on a guitar breaks when you're doing your solo. Right. A light breaks, a motor breaks. Things happen, man. But there is touring crews are most of them are a very strong, tight-knit organization. And I don't want to liken it to the military, because my stepson's in the military and I have a lot of respect for the military, but we're like a little unit and we are very close, and we come in and when shit's not going right, we get each other's back. That's that means if PA's having a problem, other departments are trying to do what they can to make their days easier. So as far as mantra, it's just one of the things, it is what it is. If things are going to break, they are what they are, but you just dig in and you just get it done and you make the show happen. That's the bottom line. Again, going back to my earlier point, people saved up to be there that night. That is their date night. That is their escape. And we're going to do everything in our power to give them that night. Hey, it's Chris Lisle. I'm a Nashville-based production manager and production designer, and you're listening to The Career Musician with Nomad.
Blasting the stereotype of musicians. Follow us at The Career Musician Podcast.
Being a career musician is more than just gigs and sessions. Are you a career musician? Find out on the Career Musician Podcast, streaming everywhere.
That's right, man. So much respect for that. And you have worked with some of the biggest names in the industry. Everybody, Robert Plant, Keith Urban, Miranda Lambert, OneRepublic. The list just literally, I would need a scroll 30 feet long, So I want to liken that to one of my experiences. My first big tour, I had been touring from the late 90s all the way up until I moved to LA. I was living in Nashville up until 2005. I moved to LA in 2005 and I got the American Idol's live tour. That was the year that Carrie Underwood won. So that was a big ass tour. And I can't remember for the life, the production manager was Patrick. I can't remember his last name, but I had such a respect for that man because he was stoic in nature, but yet still likable. Yep. And very militant, but, always personable. Just so he had that perfect blend. And I used to love, again, as my first big, giant arena tour, I really used to like, even though I wasn't the MD, I was just a guitar player, I would go in early and watch them work. Right. To see the logistics of all, like you said, all that coming together is just incredible to me. It blows my mind.
It's a machine, man. It is. I mean, I've actually, it's funny. I've seen fans that sit there and try to, until they get kicked out by security. People try to sit there and watch loadout because all of a sudden, that last note's played, the artist is off stage, and then it's literally 200 people send into an arena, and everything dissolves. It just starts to melt away. And, it's fun to watch, man. I mean, it literally, everything has a place. Everything has an order. It's controlled chaos.
It sure is. I love those time-lapse videos, and you watch it in fast. It's like, oh man, that's incredible.
Absolutely.
All right, so look, the way we hooked up again, I was scrolling one day and I saw a post of yours, and you were talking about the pandemic and what a huge impact it's had on the touring culture. Let's talk about that. And I believe you're part of an organization or something that's trying to bring awareness. So tell me all about that. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it sometimes it feels weird to talk about it because this pandemic has literally affected every person in the entire world.
Yes.
But the reality of it is the live entertainment world. We were the first to shut down. We shut down in early March, abruptly, quickly, and we will be the last to return. And because we are so many independent contractors and small companies, it's hard to survive right now. I mean, I haven't had a show. I did work one little thing around the presidential debates here in Nashville, but past that, I haven't had a show since March. And in March, I had 2 employees and I had an office, and all that, it goes away. If you don't have income, you can't sustain that. And, so, man, I tell you what, I've never seen our industry so tight. There are several organizations right now, and that are just standing up right now to try to get us more relief. And people say, "Are you guys just asking for handouts?" It's like, no, we're asking to survive. Extended unemployment, man. People can survive on $250 a week or $225 a week, whatever it is here in town. Yeah. For business owners like myself, another round of PPP loans to help get employees back to work, to help us pay our bills. We just need that federal aid. And man, there's a lot of industry leaders. Michael Strickland is the owner of Bandit Lights. He's been a huge advocate for our industry, but there's several others that have just come through and that are literally working with Congress on a daily basis. Like, you guys got to help us out here. And again, I'm not one to ask for a handout. Most of us are heads down, mouth shut kind of people. We dig in and get the work done. And right now we're having to be vocal and seen, and we're not used to that. And just trying to get through this time, man. But you know what? I'm the eternal optimist. And although I can't sit here today and give you a date and say next June, next July, whatever it is, we're going to be back to work, I am 100% confident we will be back to work. I think that coming out of a pandemic, we are potentially going to see some of the busiest times we've ever seen in live entertainment. People are going to be starved for human connection and to just get out there and see entertainment. And I love streaming. I love the podcast. I love these drive-in shows. I love everything we've been able to do. But the bottom line is, when somebody goes to a show, like I was talking about date night a minute ago, it's about human-to-human connection.
That's right.
And we can't, as much as I love you and we spend time on the screen, it's not, what I'm saying, there's something about being there in person. That's what it's not just people at shows seeing their artists, but it's smelling that popcorn and tasting that beer and feeling that bass in your chest.
Yeah, dude.
You can't replace that on a stream.
Oh, dude, you just gave me flashbacks of so many great festivals.
Yeah. We're going to be back, man. We are. I just can't give you a day, but I feel very confident we're going to be a busy industry again.
Man, I really agree with that. Politics aside, I make a distinct effort to not discuss that. I am the same way. I believe that it's going to come back. Live entertainment is going to come back. The world is going to come back to normal. I choose to look at it in an optimistic manner because, otherwise, what else do you have? And you know what? Call it foolish hope, but I call it optimism. Hey, it's going to come back, right?
Dude, you're spot on. And I love that you have that outlook. And honestly, man, I had a phone call the other day with somebody when this topic came up, but I'm really worried. Mental health is a big concern of mine. And I want to talk a little bit about my nonprofit in a second, but
yes,
man, we're going into the holidays, and specifically for live entertainment, musicians, crew, we've been out of work now for 9 months. We're coming into this time of year that people get lonely. Mm-hmm. It's hard. And man, I think we all need to be looking out for each other right now. You need to be checking in on your friends that work in the live entertainment world, musicians, crews, bands, everybody, because this is a tough time of year, man. And I do think that coming into 2021, we're going to have this boost of optimism. I'm already feeling it. I think there's some very optimistic things, but getting through the next 4 weeks, man, I honestly, it's weighing on me.
Amen. That is so true. And you know what? When you say it like that, it's only 4 weeks, but boy, does it feel eternal, doesn't it?
It does.
Especially this time of year, like you said. And we all know, you and I both know, plenty of single people who don't have a big family, like you said, who do get lonely because part of their success in life has been living on the road, you know?
Absolutely. And again, and as you know very well, man, when we're on the road, like I said a while ago, we are little families. When you're on a tour bus with 11 other people, and then you go into you work with them in the venue all day, then get back on the bus with them, they are literally, love them, hate them. There's ups and downs, but that is your family. And you get really close to some people. And again, some of my best friends in this world, in fact, I think all of my best friends in this world are touring people. That's the reality of it. It's people that we've been in the trenches together. And again, this time of year, people have been working for a while and we've lost that camaraderie over the past 9 months. We've lost some of that connection. And I just think it's important that we check up on each other. I think that's my big pitch. That's great. Let's use this as a prompt. So there you have it, everybody. Call all your friends in the biz, check in, on a regular basis and stay in touch. And I couldn't help but chuckle when you said we become a family, like it or not, on that tour bus. Boy, I don't like tour bus. I mean, look, I love it. And, it's like growing up with a bunch of brothers and sisters. You're like, get away from me. Leave me alone. I want my space, right? Sure.
And I'm always reminded of, the tour bus rules,
Oh, yeah.
I was always the first guy to be like, hey, no number 2 on the bus.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Bus life is, I think it's either you love it or you hate it. I mean, we've been on those tours where the bus is, if you have the right mix of personalities, it could be a lot of fun.
You're right.
A good bus driver.
Yeah.
But if it's one of those things too, in such a confined space, a bus is 45 feet long by 8 feet wide. If you have one bad apple, one addict, one person that takes their drinking too far, one asshole, it takes that whole vibe on that bus down, and then the whole camaraderie changes.
You're right.
And again, love it or hate it, it's still, you're in the bus together and you try to make the best of it. But man, I've been fortunate. Again, like you said, I've been on the buses with some great people and some dear friends, and I've had some pretty miserable rides too.
Rough ones. Hey, have you ever been oil spotted?
Me personally, no. No, I've been.
Same here. I pride myself on that.
So here's the Chris Lisle tip. So one of the number one reasons, well, there's 2 reasons to be oil spotted that I'm familiar with. Well, let's go 3. You missed bus call. The bus you were late to bus call, which if you're on time, you're early, and if you're early, no wait. If you're,
yep.
Did I have it right?
If you're early, you're on time.
And if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
That's it. I love that. Use that. That is the bus thing. The other one is, after the show, the band and crew that may get done before everybody else, while everybody else is finishing load out, they'll go hit a bar, and forget what time it is, and then the buses roll to the next city. I do know of that happening to people. But then the other one, the one that terrifies me the most, man, and this is funny, is, when you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go. And you go to the driver, it's 2:30 in the morning, like, man, I need a truck stop.
Yeah.
And they pull into the truck stop. And my biggest fear is like that they forget I'm in there.
It's being left, yes.
Yeah. And so I know that like in the middle of the night, I felt us pull up to a truck stop before, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go use this time. And I was like, I need to tell the driver I'm leaving the bus. Right. So I always left something memorable on their seat, like a shoe or something to make them go, why is there a shoe? Why is there a book? Why is there something on my seat, a note? Because man, you don't want to be at the truck stops of America in Des Moines at 3:30 a.m.
I love it when the drivers and the tour managers work out a system. Like I was on one tour where you had to leave your tour tag on the handle right by in front of the, you know that big handle in front of the passenger seat in the cab? Yeah. You had to leave your tour tag hanging on there, and then he would know, okay, Nomad's in the toilet. I'm going to wait.
Exactly. Don't go anywhere. Oh man, but no, dude, bus life. Again, and a lot of respect to our drivers. Man,
Yes.
you know very well. Those people, not only the truck drivers getting our gear town to town, but a bus driver, you've got 12 lives sleeping. It's not just about driving safely, but it's about driving smoothly. If you start driving by Braille and getting off onto the rumble strips, the whole bus just woke up.
That's right.
And again, for a crew person that's only getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night tops, that's important sleep. And so having a good bus driver is a key too.
Man, these things, again, so many important key factors that a lot of people either take for granted or just don't realize. They don't realize what goes into it.
Man, touring is a wheel, and there's a lot of cogs in the wheel, and every one of those cogs is important. Lighting's as important as audio, as a bus driver, as a tour caterer, as a musician, as a band member. I mean, as an artist, like we are all out for that same. We're all trying to make a living. And to make that wheel balance, we all need to be doing our jobs and keep everything smooth and in our place that we need to be.
I love it. So you mentioned your nonprofit, and I was going to ask you about projects on the horizon. So maybe now is the perfect time to discuss that.
Yeah. So in 2011, I started a nonprofit with a friend of mine called the Touring Career Workshop, and we're an official 501c3. But it came out of a need I saw of there not being human resources in the touring world. Like you and I stated a while ago, we're our own businesses. We're our own marketing departments, human resources. And I found myself getting a lot of people coming to me going, hey, who do you use for accounting? Who do you use for retirement planning? Who do you use for health insurance? And it just kind of came up with this brainstorm of idea of, okay, well, we're going to have a seminar once a year, and we're going to bring in these guest speakers and teach people how to be their own human resources department.
I love it.
So every November we do this event. It's usually about a 5 to 6 hour event, and there's usually a general session with some keynote speakers, and then there's breakout sessions, and people can learn again, how to file your taxes as an independent contractor, how to set up a 401k. But then we have panels of spouses, of wives and girlfriends that come on and talk about how did they cope being on the road, and how did they make relationships work while being on the road. I've had panels come together with parents. How do you parent? I know you've got a daughter, right? Yeah. How do you parent while being on the road? How can you still engage with your children? So we try to hit all these human resource related topics. And so we do that once a year. It's a big event. We do a couple other things. And then the other thing we do is we pay for counseling. We have a program we call All Access Program. And we have 5 counselors listed on our website, touringcareerworkshop.com, under All Access. And we will pay for your first 2 sessions with any of our counselors, just because we don't want money to be an issue. If you need to go talk to someone, here's 5 people. You can even do phone counseling and stuff.
Yes. Okay. Did you say tour career or touring?
Touringcareerworkshop.com.
Workshop. Okay. Because I'm typing it in here. So everybody listening, touringcareerworkshop.com.
Yep.
Okay, it's popping up. I love it. So, Chris, I didn't even realize you had this. You said 2011. I think we were working together sometime around.
That would have been right around Babyface area. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to talk to you more about maybe how we can work together with the career musician in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, my heart is all about, again, I want people. It was funny. I had mentors coming up in this industry. I talked a little bit about that earlier, but I had people that took me under their wing in the mid 90s that taught me not only lighting, but production management. And man, one of the most heartbreaking things I started to see is as these folks hit their late 50s, early 60s, is they had nothing to show for their career. They were broke. They had burned bridges from having bad attitudes. They were physically in pain because they didn't take care of their backs or their knees or whatever. And I just started thinking, like, what things could have changed in their career early on to put them in a better spot as they near retirement. And that's the other thing behind Touring Career Workshop is we definitely try to go after the 20-somethings that are just coming in this industry and, coach, like, hey, take the stairs. Don't jump off the front of the stage. Yes, I know you're 22, but trust me, you'll thank me for that when you're 50 and your knees are not busted. But it's also like, hey, man, start working on that 401k now. Don't wait till you're in your 40s. Do it now. I don't care if it's $50 a month. Put something in it now to start planning for your retirement. Because let me tell you something, brother, it comes quicker than people think. You know that.
I'm in the process of writing a book, and I can't stress this enough. I'm like, holy shit. listen, folks, there's going to be an end. We all die. And I hate to be so morbid, but when you are in your late teens and 20s, for some reason you think you're invincible. What is that? There's just no programming included in our DNA that tells us, hey, you better prepare, you know?
You're spot on, man. You're exactly right. And so, again, just getting people thinking. You know, I've learned I can't force anybody to do anything. I can't force them to start a 401k. Right. I can't force them to get counseling, but I can provide you resources and tell you, hey, if you want to talk to people, here's where you go. And just to hope that something triggers in somebody's head and goes, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that first step to set up a retirement plan or to make sure I have health insurance and, you know, those kind of things.
You said something else, and it's so, gosh, it hits home so hard, bro, because I found myself saying this to my wife. You said that people in the industry can find themselves in their 50s and 60s and have nothing to show for it. So whether you're crew or band, I don't care. It's the same. And here's the reason why. A lot of people, the general public, might not understand that. But first, let's set some rumors straight. First of all, if you work for superstars, it doesn't mean you make the same money that superstars make. Number one, right? You make a hell of a lot less. So if you work for a celebrity who's wealthy, doesn't mean you're wealthy, right?
Correct.
So you don't have all this expendable money. Second of all, like you said, we are our own small business entrepreneurs, basically, and we go where the work is. So it means going from gig to gig sometime, unless you can get lucky enough to land in like a Garth Brooks camp where he's had the same people on payroll for the past 35 years, right? You know,
absolutely.
And it's just, and that's a rarity. That's the exception, not the rule.
100% exception. But yes.
So you could, as a touring musician or crew person, you could look back after 20, 30 years of touring and say to your loved ones, well, what do I have to show for it? I have nothing, you know, and that's a really sad predicament to be in.
It is, unless you have wisdom like you just have. Yeah. Like you have wisdom and what I feel like I have in knowing that you've got to leave a legacy. You've got to leave this industry better than you found it, which is exactly what you're doing, which is exactly what I'm doing. And you know, in my funeral, I want people to talk about the positive things I did for this industry and for those around me. That's and right. Not that I was the asshole that cussed out promoters.
Right.
So, and again, that's not only about the, passing on and your legacy, but it's about right now and getting work now. Is people want to work with good people.
That's right, man. Okay. This is the perfect segue. How do you define success?
Okay. I think by giving my customer, my artist, a A-level product for great value and keeping my integrity intact. You know, doing things the right way.
There you go.
And delivering value. I mean, I work not only in rock genre, but I work in country and jazz and a couple other that not everybody has $200,000 a week to spend on production. Right. So for some of my clients, a few grand a week to spend on lighting, it means a lot. Making sure you're giving people a great value and that you're putting your heart into stuff. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what other people thought of my success. You asked me, do you think Chris or Michael's successful? Like, how do you gauge that? But man, I feel like, if people can look at you as somebody that has integrity and honesty and does people right, I think that's success.
Right. Boy, that is so well said, my brother. Well said. For the young cats coming into the biz, what would be your word of wisdom to say to them? Hey, if you do nothing else, if you haven't heard anything I've said in the past hour, do this one thing.
This is going to hurt some feelings, but I'm going to say it.
Please say it.
Sometimes it's okay just to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
As much as I love and I mentor a lot of people coming up in the industry, they're coming up in an industry that social media is very big, and I love social media too. But they've come up, and like you and I, who didn't have social media until later in our lives, this is what they know, and everybody puts all their feelings and emotions out there. And it's become a very me world in a lot of ways. This is beyond touring and entertainment. And I would say, listen to the veterans. Listen to the nomads, listen to people like me, listen to those that have been in the trenches. We know you have opinions, and we know that you love to share them with the world on social media, but this is about listening. And there's a lot of wisdom, man. And that's something that I feel like I did well in my 20s is I listened to the veterans. I screwed up a lot too, but I listened. When my mentors told me something, I listened. And so just shut up and listen sometimes.
I love that, man. I always say eyes and ears wide open, mouth shut.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be your time to share and to mentor. But for right now, listen and learn. This industry has evolved over the past. Look, think about what touring was in the 70s. I didn't tour then, you didn't tour then. But if you read stories and you see videos and photos, that was a different industry. And we've come so far. Look, our industry right now is not all white males. It's people. It's African American. It's Hispanic. It's Asian. It's female. It's gay. It's straight.
Right.
It's atheist. It's Christians.
All encompassing. All inclusive. Yes.
And that's one of the things I actually love about it is, man, you get on the bus. There's another thing we didn't talk about the bus, but you get on there. The rule I've always had is you don't talk politics or religion on a tour bus.
Yes. Amen. Yes. Exactly.
You don't. It doesn't. Look, you've got your opinions. I've got mine. You're not going to change somebody else's opinion. All you're going to do is this.
Yes.
And it's going to be tense and awkward. Get on there and talk about the fun stuff. Talk about wine.
Yeah.
And food and movies and music and the things that join us.
And yeah.
But man, our tour buses are so diverse these days, and I'm proud of our industry and where we've come from, and that excites me that we are not all just white dudes anymore. It's a very diverse, multicultural industry, and I love that we've come to this.
Exactly. Man, I love that so much. Chris, you are such a treasure trove of information. I love it. I geek out. Like I said, I geek out on hearing about all the technical aspect and, the logistics. I also, get so warm and fuzzy inside hearing what you just said. So that's a beautiful thing, man. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Dude, absolutely, man. I mean, I love this industry. I do. And I wouldn't want to do anything else. That's been the hardest part about this pandemic is trying to figure out what else to do for 9 months. And, you pour yourself into other creative things and you do what you got to do. But I love this industry. I wouldn't have created a nonprofit to serve this industry if I didn't love it. I love the people I've done life with. I love, I was telling my wife this morning, I was telling her about the podcast I was going to be on. And she's like, well, tell me about Nomad. I'm like, well, Nomad and I toured on Babyface together. And I was telling her, I was like, he was in Russia with me. We went to Russia together.
Oh, dude, I forgot. We were together in Russia.
Which is a whole other crazy story that I don't want to share publicly.
We had a blast, man. That was a blast.
It was a lot of fun. Like when I closed the book on my career and I'm sitting on a beach somewhere, like doing a show in Russia with Babyface is one of those memories that you can't make that shit up. And it was awesome.
Dude, I got to just tell this little bit before we close out. Okay. Do you remember when we got to the hotel and they bring us downstairs into this club, quote unquote, because we were playing a little tiny club, right?
I remember this.
It turned out to be like a speakeasy, like a real life speakeasy, right? You go up to the desk, there's this beautiful Russian woman who's signing you in, and these two huge Russian guys with guns that are visible.
Yep.
Right? And they peel back the curtain. We all walked into the elevator. All of us are like literally shaking in our boots. We go downstairs. We get out of the elevator. They peel open another thick velvet curtain now you're in like 1930s, right? Speakeasy world. It was intense, wasn't it?
So intense.
Like,
I don't know if you remember that meal. Like, we went down there and we'd all just flown from the U.S. And I was talking to Mark Miles, who had toured with us on that. He was at that show. We were talking the other day, and I remember sitting down, all of us at a long table. There was no menus. They were
that's right.
What do you want to eat? We're like, what do you have? It's like, no, what do you want to eat? And it was like, literally, call it out, brother. I'm going to bring you whatever you want.
Dude, and literally, if you said chicken, they brought like a whole roasted rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
If you said steak, the steak was like 2.5 inches thick and like so, oh my God. It was so freaking amazing.
It was amazing. It was, I mean, you can't make that up. Like, that's just.
And I gotta say, those clear water bottles that all the restaurants are using, we have them at the house too, of course.
Sure.
They brought like, 4 or 5 of those giant ones, They weren't filled with water, bro.
Oh.
They were filled with ice cold, freezing cold vodka.
And like good vodka. Like
the best.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And before we could even sit down, we all had to take a table shot. Like they would pour, and our liaison, his name was Robert. I remember that.
Yep.
And he would have a little toast. And then literally, bro, all I remember is me, Richie, Brandon, and Kevin, the guys in the band. After a while, we couldn't see straight. We had drank so much vodka. Thank God we were eating, though.
Right. Yeah. Man, again, that's one of those memories, like, you can't make that up, man. Yeah. It's just, and I'm thankful. Look, I'm thankful for those. That's the stuff this industry has given me. Lugging gear across the world and down the stairs into a speakeasy was logistically stressful, and it wasn't easy. But man, I got to do a show with Babyface at a small speakeasy in Russia. Like,
right. Yeah,
it's just awesome.
And then the next day we went to the Kremlin. So
we did.
It's like, come on. I mean, you can't. Yeah. You can't buy that.
You can't. No, dude, that's the good stuff right there.
All right, I got to go out with some rapid fire. You ready?
I'm going to do my best.
Okay, here we go. Name 3 tour essentials.
Cell phone, shower shoes, and laptop.
I got to say, okay, I'm breaking the rapid fire rules. I love shower shoes. That's a new one. I love that. I'm adding that to my list. All right. Song or band or artist that changed your life when you heard it? You're like, oh, my gosh.
Foo Fighters, man. I mean, it gave me hope in rock and roll.
Love it. As entertainers, it's hard for us to be entertained sometimes. What does it for you?
Binge watching Netflix with my wife.
Which one you watching now?
We just finished Unsolved Mysteries, which I know is but I liked it. I mean,
it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Like Queen's Gambit. Well, Queen's Gambit was the last one.
Queen's Gambit was insane, wasn't it?
So good.
My new favorite show of the world. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, right now we're on Nurse Ratched. Love that one. Check it out. Yeah. Okay. 3 artists on your playlist.
A band called Caveman out of New York City I really like. A band called Naked and Famous. They're a New Zealand band. And then, again, Foo Fighters just put out a new track that's really good. So hoping we get some more awesome stuff out of them. I know we will.
Love that. We will. On long flights, like international flights or long bus rides, like those 12 to 15-hour bus rides, what do you do to keep from going insane?
Ambien.
No, I have an Ambien story.
Dude, I'm a workaholic, so honestly, I make sure I have my laptop, and I've got a project list. I just organize files. I work. I always have something to work on.
Project list. I love it. I'm a database nerd. Yeah, right? We got to have that stuff organized. Okay, so we already covered that. Your dream collaboration. Dude, you've had so many dream collaborations already. So who's left?
I mean, and it could be dead or alive.
Yeah, dead or alive, whatever.
I mean, dude, I would love to have worked with Elvis. I just think that would have been cool. I'm a Tennessee boy. I just think that would have been fun.
I got to say, and please, I'm not trying to drop names, but this was a surreal moment for me. Babyface was co-producing Barbra Streisand's Partners album about 5-6 years ago with Walter A., another famous producer. And they asked me to play guitar. I go in one of the days, and I just hear the music for Love Me Tender. And then I'm like, okay, cool, Barbara's covering Love Me Tender. But I'm thinking to myself, well, the project is called Partners, but how could she partner with, so maybe she's doing a duet with somebody else, right? Next thing I know, in the cans, I'm in the booth, and I hear Elvis's voice.
Oh.
And I'm playing guitar on the track, bro. Freaked me the fuck out. Like, I came home, and I told my wife, I was like, babe, I just played with Elvis. Like,
that's pretty awesome, man.
Isn't that crazy?
That's cool.
Yeah, so
I love that.
I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying, like, no. I've been very fortunate. I'm very grateful. I do not take that for granted.
That's braggable. I would brag about that.
All right, back to rapping, because I'm terrible at this. I always go on. All right, what reminds you of home when you're out on those long tours?
Seeing a happy family together, seeing somebody at the show, a family, kids, make me miss my son, my wife.
I like that. I like that. And what's one of your guilty pleasures? Earlier you mentioned whiskey. So
Jack Daniels, man. And again, I'm Tennessee through and through, and like that is my drink, probably to a fault. I love, dude, whiskey. It just
Yeah.
When I get all worked up, it's just.
Yeah. Yeah, and just having one or two glasses is perfect. That's that perfect zone, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
How did you survive on the Babyface tour if you're a Jack Daniels guy? You know the whole band was nothing but Jameson guys.
I learned about Jameson. I was not super familiar with Jameson, and then all of a sudden I was like, I could do Jameson.
Right?
So, yeah, we used to actually sometimes sneak into y'all's dressing room and take a couple shots before y'all got there. It's like, oh, the band isn't here yet. We'd have
okay. Used to, and sometimes bullshit. Every time. No, we had so much fun, man.
Oh, it was a great tour. So
you have to make sure that you put the proper amount of bottles on the rider, right? On the green rider. Yeah.
And that's my job as production manager. It's like, no, we're going to need 2 Jamesons tonight.
2 Jamesons, right.
Right.
And finally, the proverbial drum roll. What would you do if you weren't a career crew person?
Man, I probably would have wound up in college doing advertising and not nearly as happy with the stories and memories I have right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, and for that, we're grateful.
Yeah. No, this industry's been great to me. I'm grateful to be a part of it. I love this industry. I love the people in it. Is it always roses? No, but life isn't always roses, man. You dig in and you make the best out of everything you got and enjoy the little moments.
That's right. That's right. Man, amen to that, bro. Chris Lisle, thank you so much for being a guest.
Absolutely. No, again, thanks for having me. I love this podcast. I love what you're doing. And again, the career musician, I'm honored. It's like I'm an honorary musician for the day, and I don't even know how to play a thing. So
that's okay, but you are. You said the right words, honorary musician. That is so true, man. Look, I don't care, from the janitorial staff, the cleanup staff, to the lighting director, to the sound guys, the crews, the stagehands, all the way up to the lead star of the show, Taylor Swift or whomever it may be. We're all human.
Absolutely.
We all deserve the same respect and love and kindness, right?
Completely agree, brother. I mean, that's, again, at the end of the day, it's about taking care of people, man. People come to the show and the people you're on tour with, man. It's a small world, dude.
That's right. And word travels fast. That's for sure.
Very fast. Don't burn bridges.
Amen.
Be nice.
Yes.
We could keep going on this.
We could. With our little one-liner quips here, yeah.
Binge previous seasons of the Career Musician Podcast and subscribe for all new episodes.
Go behind the scenes with host Nomad to gain inside knowledge of entertainment business from the world's leading musicians, artists, producers, managers, and more.
I'm just a nomad, nowhere man, writing the songs in this one-man band. A nomad, yeah, I'm a nomad, Hush now, darling, you'll be fine. I'll be back this way.
Hey, this is Nomad, host and creator of the Career Musician Podcast, and I am thoroughly stoked to be an official member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Pantheon Podcast Network is the first of its kind as an all-music-based podcast collective. Please be sure to check us out at pantheonpodcast.com for more info.